All right, how we doing tonight? Thank you all so much for being here with us today. We're super excited to be here. My name is Brian Lewis. I'm the Director of Marketing here at OrthoFi. I'm really honored to introduce Brian Wright. He's a great friend of mine, great friend of OrthoFi's. And, for those of you that know Brian, you know how great of a person he is. And, his background is really impressive. But for those of you who don't know Brian, he's an international motivational speaker and is a business and life coach for some of the most well-respected dentists and orthodontists in the industry. He's the founder and CEO of New Patient Group, hosts the New Patient Group podcast, and managing partner of Wright Chat. He's also really one of the most trusted partners with some of the finest companies in healthcare as a consultant and speaker, including Align Technology, Henry Schein, obviously OrthoFi, Propel Orthodontics, and many more. He's also an author of the Benton Koppel Resource and has been featured in Dental Economics Ask the Expert section. So with that, again, this is my privilege to introduce Brian, and I'll hand it over to you. And I hope everybody enjoys the webinar tonight. So again, thank you for joining us.
All right, there we go. Let me reshare while I'm doing that. Thanks for that great introduction. Appreciate that. And welcome everybody inside the broadcast booth to the new patient acquisition mistakes that are costing you millions. A couple things you're going to see tonight, some QR codes. The one you see down there on the left is going to be free courses. So this is actually one that I'm doing tonight that we're also doing in our on-demand studio behind me. That's going to go much more in depth. It'll be more like a 3-hour course. You can get that for free as well as a lot of other our courses. And then on the one on the right, that'll be periodically popping up throughout this webinar is to our very popular receptionist course. So as we focus on some of the new patient call stuff tonight, you may be interested to learn more about how you can get that implemented. You can just scan that QR code. What we're going to be talking about tonight is a lot of good stuff. And partly what I'm going to teach you as we go through is how to dream large but go small. Something that I want for all of you out there, whether you're a new patient group, Wright Chat client, or you're not, is I want you to think big. You've got to think big. And this 1% rule that I'm going to teach you tonight on how to dream large, it's something that the very famous, the Shark Tank, using them as an example, the very famous are experts at it. And they're experts at realizing where the lost opportunities are actually happening. All right. But the 1% rule is that there's only 1% of you tonight that are actually going to go and execute on this. Okay. So that's the beauty of anything you ever do, any webinar you ever do. There's only going to be about 1% of the people actually execute anything that they learn. And that's how you get ahead of your competition. And this focus with a purpose, this dream large but focus small, is all built around the 4-quadrant system of psychology. Psychology has a 4-quadrant system in order for you to focus with a purpose. We all want to focus with a purpose. We want to take what we learn, no matter if it's an in-person event or tonight, and we want to be able to focus with a purpose. The problem is we're all distracted. All right. The lower right-hand corner is distraction. And distraction causes indecision, which is the enemy of progress. If you ever want to do something, one of the famous traits, one of the best traits of famous entrepreneurs is they make quick decisions. Even if the decision is bad and it backfires, the quicker you make that bad decision, the better, because you can quit doing it. All right. So indecision is the enemy of progress, and it creates a detached focus. And many business owners in and out of healthcare have a detached focus. It's very hard not to when we're distracted, indecisive. It creates a detached focus. What we're going to share with you tonight is a lot of different ways you are losing money without even knowing it. All right. The first type, if you look at the 2 types of lost opportunities, the very first one is the obvious one. Maybe you've worked with an MBA before. This is where MBAs are experts, is they're experts at analyzing the known. Okay. You had whatever last year, you had a 70% conversion rate. All right. Now let's analyze that and let's break it down and let's figure out how to get that to 80% this year. Maybe it's you had a certain amount of no-shows. Let's break that down. Let's look at your chair time. Maybe if you're in Invisalign practice out there, you can look at chair time and profitability. But just like what is the worst complaint your practice could ever receive? This is a little bit of a trick question. The answer is the one it doesn't know about. It's the same thing with lost opportunities. The one that you don't know about, the lost opportunities that you don't know that are happening are the ones that are hurting you the most. And the reason for this more than anything is that you don't feel the pain. You feel the pain if somebody yanks $50,000 out of your bank account because that's what your Invisalign bill was last month. You feel that pain. So therefore you're actively searching for ways to make that less, right? Maybe go to another status. How do you become more profitable, et cetera, et cetera. But what you don't feel the pain is, are all the other things that are happening to you every single day. And a lot of those are what we're going to dive into today. Now, there's a book called The Influence, The Power, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. Now, if you have not read this book, most of you I'm sure have heard about it, but if you have not read this book, it is very, very important in my mind that you go out and read it. Fantastic book. And if you look at this journey, and we're obviously dealing with acquisition tonight, I'm going to dial this in, the reason why I'm going through all this. If you look at this consumer journey, what you're looking at on the screen right there are the new patient group services, individually or combined. And as you take this journey, The Power of Persuasion, this book is a fantastic one as it relates to once people are inside your door. Now, the principles definitely apply from your leadership skills, online marketing, phone call too. But the biggest, most impact that they have are once people walk through your door and the rest of the things you see on the screen. There's another book. All right. And this book is less known. All right. It's called The Power of Persuasion, and it's by the same Robert Cialdini. And I have found over the years, whether you're going to a restaurant, traveling around the country, whatever it may be, a lot of the more unknown businesses are actually better than the known businesses, like the family-owned restaurant, more personal attention, the food is plated more beautifully, and it just tastes better. The experience is better. Well, The Power of Persuasion is a lesser known book that I really want you to read because it is actually more impactful than the other one that's more known. And The Power of Persuasion relates to the psychology of how you set people up for the sale. And I know sales, a dirty word in healthcare. We'll dive a little bit more into that on why it shouldn't be. But what we're talking about tonight in these acquisition mistakes all relates to before they enter your practice, okay? The leadership and culture, online marketing, the new patient phone call, and why I have a smaller arrow is part of that new patient experience is actually before they come in. So after you hang up the phone and schedule them to the time they actually show up to your door. And the two that we're going to be focusing on, so this is a series, there's going to be other webinars, but the two we're going to be focusing on most heavily tonight as it relates to the new patient phone call mistakes that you are making at your practice as it relates to onboarding, as well as the leadership and culture. We're going to relate to those. Now, a lot of the things you're going to learn tonight and through this series, and it's unfortunate, but there is a lot of industry consultants that are actively teaching these mistakes, causing practices to function as if they still had these computers sitting on their desk. All right. It's really important because, and it's also going to take you outside of your comfort zone, because a lot of what you're going to hear tonight, you may have not heard before, or you might have heard it before, taught completely different. And for all of you, and this is the motivational part of me, is that leadership always plays a part. It always plays a part, no matter what webinar, no matter what you do. How you function as an entrepreneur and a leader has a direct impact on everything else you want to accomplish clinically and non-clinically in your life. So tonight, I hope this takes you out of your comfort zone, because that's where the magic happens. The comfort zone is the danger zone, and you realize that the only competition you have is you. It's not Smile Direct Club, the guy down the street, girl down the street. None of that stuff matters if you take care of business and implement this 1% rule, all right? It's you versus you. And let's dive in. We're going to be focusing tonight around the new patient phone call and also you as a leader. And the very first one is missed new patient phone calls. This is a very big one. The other day, and this is kind of a sad story. Luckily, he's okay. That's my dog, Winston, that may be howling at my door here at any minute. He's kind of a daddy's boy. But the other day, it's about 2 weeks ago, out in the front lawn, throwing the baseball to my son, Braden, who you can kind of see in the background on the couch there. And I walked away for a couple minutes, and Braden was throwing the baseball up in the air and trying to hit it with the bat. Well, sure enough, Winston comes chugging along. Braden didn't know he was there. Braden swung the bat and drilled him right in the face. I heard a scream and a whimper like you could not believe. A couple of Winston's teeth fell out, and he got drilled in the face with a baseball bat. So what do? Well, we immediately hop on the phone, and we dial vet number 1. And guess what happened? They didn't answer. This is during normal business hours. It was about 3 o'clock, maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They didn't answer. We hang up the phone. We call another one. They didn't answer. We hang up the phone. Finally, the third one answered, and guess who got the business? Winston went to that vet, and they were very good inside their doors as well. And I could hear my wife all the time referring other people or just talking about her experience. And this is according to New Patient Group. So our company does a lot of mystery calls, and the average amount of mystery calls it takes to a given practice during normal business hours. The misconception is you may miss calls during non-business hours, which you do, but more actually happen when you're open. And that number is 3. It takes us 3 times to call a practice to get an answer, which is a startling number, but it's also one of the reasons why my other company, Wright, was created to solve that problem, because it happens to every one of you as a business owner. The challenge is you may not know it. And I'm going to go through this. And let's just say you're a shopper, you're going around and you type into Google massage in League City. League City is a city south of Houston where I live. And you get all of these options. And this is what we're all inundated with, right? It's competition, commoditization, consumerism. And you have all these massage options and you call one and they don't answer. We've all had this happen as a consumer, where we call someplace and they don't answer. Let's type in facials in League City. Same type of thing. It's just inundated with competition. And yet these business owners are receiving calls every single day, not answering them, but yet never knowing it, because you have to find a way to create the pain, even though you don't know it's happening. Typing in orthodontist in League City. It's the same thing, right? All of you live now in a commoditized, competitive environment where the consumer thinks, acts, speaks, and shops very differently. They are not going to call you back. And when you are missing new patient phone calls, it is happening before you open. It's happening at lunch, late evening, Fridays, when many of you are not, or when many of you are closed. If you have an event you go to and you shut down the practice. And then also, like I was saying, more than anything, they are happening when you are open, busy, and distracted. And that's what I want to focus on right now. It's one of the big believers of why I believe in OrthoFi, why I'm proud to speak for them, is I'm a big believer in outsourcing as many of the non-clinical things that you possibly can to people that are either likely to do it better or reduce your headaches in case somebody actually leaves your practice and you don't have to go through that whole hiring thing, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Because the question is you have to ask yourself, how much time do you spend verifying insurance? And then how many times do you miss new patient calls because you were stuck on the phone, distracted? And the inevitable answer is we don't know. You don't know the number. And that, from a Shark Tank, from an entrepreneur perspective, exactly what you have to master in is you have to be a master at the unknown and assume these things are happening. And that is where OrthoFi comes in so well from a verification of insurance standpoint, and replacing the need to add an employee if you lose one. Just because if you're looking at this, everything is streamlined and easy. So these things that you otherwise would have to be on the phone for, causing you to miss a new patient phone call, is otherwise you're able to answer the call. Use hospitality. Speak to people in front of you instead of being inundated on the phones. Get that stuff out of your office and focus with a person with a purpose. Take action as a leader and do something about all of these things, and realize it's happening to you. Realize that they are not going to call you back. The days of, now, there's obviously exceptions. A loyal patient refers another patient. That's an exception. Okay. But it's still, even if that's the case and you don't answer their call, it's still a poor representation of your brand. And all you have to do is put yourself in things that have happened to you many times throughout your life. How many times you've called places they didn't answer, and yeah, you did call them back, but how frustrating it was when they didn't answer the first time. Realizing again that a voicemail or an answering service, it no longer works. Realizing that most of the missed calls actually occur when you're open. And then realizing the astonishing growth you're missing out on. Now, this is an example of the purposeful focus that I was talking about. All right. This right here is why our new patient group clients always grow 10 to 30% more than whatever the orthodontic industry average is for that year. Is this. They are knocking lost opportunities that they didn't know happened in the past out of the park. And I'll give you an example. This is what you have to do as a leader, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. You got to take off the clinical and put on the entrepreneur hat, and just use this as a conservative number. With Wright Chat, what we do is we answer as if we're sitting at your front desk, remotely access your software and schedule them. And the patient never even knows that we weren't sitting at your front desk. Because the reality is, and I see it all the time, with small practices, we're scheduling 8, 9, 10 a month for them. But just make up some numbers right here and say 3 new patient calls a month. Let's just say that's where your practice is. That's what you're missing. That's 36 in an entire year. And this is one of the reasons I love helping orthodontists, because you charge a high amount, 5, 6, 7, even more, sometimes thousands of dollars. So just making little tweaks throughout the consumer journey amounts to an enormous amount of growth for your practice. Let's say it's an average case fee of $5,000, which I want you to charge more. That's called prestige pricing. We want you to increase your fees and be the most expensive in your community. But even at $5,000, that's $180,000 of potential lost revenue. Now, maybe you have a 70% conversion as an example, so you can do the math off that 180. But this is where having a purposeful focus and narrowing your mindset down and saying, we're going to focus on fixing one thing at a time, plug the leaky hole, and you will always grow more than anything you will ever do outside your doors. Okay. And that is where it comes in. You've got to create the pain for yourself, because it's not like that 180 is being taken out of your bank account every month. If it was, you would be running out there searching for solutions all over the place. But because it's not, people tend to be stagnant as a business owner. So don't be distracted, get that focus, and make sure your new patient calls are being answered at the highest level. Now, new patient no-shows. This is the second one related to the new patient call, mistakes made with patient acquisition, new patient acquisition onboarding. Now, according to the Benson Koppel, so Chris Benson, if you know the name, he's a fellow speaker with me with Invisalign, great guy. Consider him a good friend, very intelligent at what he does, very good data guru. And sometimes it blows me away how companies come up with data. And when I ask Chris how he does it, it just blows my mind, because my mind doesn't think that way. But look at this number. People now enter upwards of at least 3 practices before deciding which to purchase from. Now you ask yourself, and this is proof. I got a lot of data that I'm going to share with you tonight. I like data, because as a business owner, it's very important that you remove your bias. And what I mean by that is how you and I feel about something. There's a lot of industry consultants that teach it the way they believe it should be. What you have to do is be like an umpire in baseball. You have to be independent, right? And you have to let the data tell you what to do. You have to go by the data you know, and then also what we're talking about tonight, the data that's happening to you every day that you might not know. But the facts are, shoppers create this situation. So upwards of 3 practices. Now, I got some bad news for you, and this is actually pretty sad. According to Microsoft, the average consumer attention span has dropped to 8 seconds. So we are actually dumber than a goldfish now. we should be so proud. So 1 second less than a goldfish. Now, this is a decrease of 4 total seconds, because back in 2000, when they did the study, it was 12 seconds. So this all spans. We've got people being inundated with over 10,000 marketing messages on any given day. You've got being dumber than a goldfish, as well as people entering at least 3 practices before they decide to buy. You've got all of this stuff. And you ask yourself, why do new patient no-shows happen? And this is one of the reasons, is people are distracted. They're hit with all these marketing messages. They have an attention span less than a goldfish. They're all over the place. You are, I am. It just is the reality of life, especially if you're a business owner, especially if you're a clinician and a business owner. You have a double whammy right there. You have 2 major jobs. So let's look at some of the ways you can fix this and why they happened. All right. The first thing you've got to do, and look to the right of my screen, and this is hard. All right. But this is being a motivational speaker. This is where I always go, is you. You're the competition. Right? You've got to look in the mirror. If you have an outward thought process, meaning now obviously, and we've all done it, we've all no-showed somewhere. We shouldn't have. We feel bad about it. But the reality of the situation is people no-show because of you. Not you as an individual, but you as a business, the things you did in this new economy. You may have scheduled them too far out. I can tell you right now, we have hardcore data that new patient no-shows go up and up and up anytime they're scheduled more than 3 days in advance. Now, if you get 2 weeks plus in advance, they skyrocket. But I guarantee you that if you look at your no-shows and track the data, the ones that no-show you the most are scheduled at least 4+ days out, which happens because they've already bought somewhere else. If you schedule me in a week, just like that Google video I showed you, searching on Google, they're going right down the list. So just because they call you and schedule doesn't mean they're not going to call and schedule somewhere else. And if that place gets them in tomorrow and you told them 4 days or 2 weeks, guess what? There's the opportunity for them to go to your competition first and buy from them. And God made us in a way where we don't call back and say, oh, Dr. Jones, I'm so sorry. I went to Dr. Betty down the street. I really liked her, and I bought there. God did not make us. God did not make us that way. We tend to avoid conflict. And I want you to look at the new patient call as your first date. All right. We teach this is that if you go on a date and you're all scripted and it just doesn't come across that well, you're not getting a second one. Okay. The new patient no-shows are also, I'm going to teach you tonight, another mistake made on the calls. New patient no-shows are also happening because of how the new patient call actually went. How it went. Did they see enough value in you in order to show up? Okay. Maybe they felt you lacked experience. And what I mean by that is customer service experience, not experiences and you haven't been a clinician long enough. And then maybe there were too many barriers to entry. And the domino effect, for those of you who've heard me speak, you realize I'm very big on this. If you haven't, this is something you screenshot this because it's one of the most important business lessons. Some of these psychological slides that I have is the domino effect is how the brain needs to hear a given message in order to achieve a change in attitude or behavior. Right. And it talks about how our brains work in images. In your doctor exam, when you're speaking to people, their brain is flipping every word you say to a photo. You're doing that every time I speak a word right now. So what you have to ask yourself is what photo are you creating in the minds of consumers before they come through your doors, right? Not after. Persuasion, remember, before they come through your doors, what image are you creating? How's your receptionist speaking? What happens? And are you building an image of this boring clipboard from the 1990s? Are you coming across as inconvenient? Or are you coming across as the innovative one, the forward-thinking one? And you got to remember that's clinically and non, because people relate to the non-clinical far better. If you don't believe me, go look at your 5-star reviews. That will tell you everything you need to know about your practice. They should say things like, Dr. Jones, wow, best orthodontist I've ever seen. Went to a fabulous school. Their x-ray machine is state of the art. I'm just so impressed with his degrees on the wall or her degrees on the wall. That's what they should say, but they don't. The reviews are all about hospitality, customer service, experience, emotional buy-in, things like that. So you look at the practice on the left here and then the practice on the right and who wins. So even if these two practices schedule 2 weeks out, you're most likely to go to the one on the right. And the one on the left is creating too many barriers. That's the whole thing about this is you've got to reduce the barriers to entry. When people no-show you, they are telling you something and you've got to learn from it. I want to talk about convenience for a second because this is something that I want you to really think about and ask yourself, and I'll show you in an action item here in just a second. What you have to understand is without convenience, you are without experience. Something that we teach here with New Patient Group is that your tools don't matter. Invisalign, OrthoFi, dental monitoring. The reason I'm a speaker for all is they realize that the tool is only as good as you, and it's only as good as how you sell it. All right. OrthoFi, you've got to use as a way, and this is why I'm a believer in them, among many other reasons you'll hear tonight, is that you can actively get more people through your doors by utilizing and marketing and having your new patient phone call, the verbiage on there, which I'll show you tonight, and also the processes after the phone call. You are more convenient. Because when you think about customer experience, think about this for a second. Uber, Netflix, and all of these things, Amazon, they are who they are because they're convenient. If they were inconvenient, you wouldn't use them. And you have to look in the mirror and realize and ask yourself, are you convenient or are there too many barriers? And ask yourself the question, are you easy? Do you have online paperwork? And that's one of the great things, one of my most favorite things about OrthoFi, we're going to talk about it tonight, is just the easiness of onboarding right from the phone. Virtual consultations. Have you started to learn how to implement those? Clear aligners, reduced treatment times, no wait times, online scheduling, no hold times. That's the other thing. Are you picking up the phone, which is happening at practices every single day? Hello, hold, and you make them hold. Why? Because you got to handle insurance. You're dealing with Joey checking out in front of you. All of those are inconveniences and they're lost opportunities. So when you look at all these companies and you say to yourself, they're all easy. And when you shop, who do you choose? even if you have to spend more money. It's a misconception that shoppers want a cheap price. The reason why shoppers sometimes want a cheap price is they don't see any value differentiation between the other three places they're looking. So if Uber was more expensive than the taxi, if Netflix was more expensive than whatever, Blockbuster back when that existed, if Amazon was more expensive, you'd still use it. Why? Because of the convenience. That's something that OrthoFi gives the practice from a convenient standpoint. So between no-shows and missed calls, I'm going to show you some startling numbers here that go back to focusing with a purpose. And you've got to take action as a leader and do something about this. Realizing new patient no-shows happen because of your processes. You have to look in the mirror, and it's hard. I get it. The best athletes do it, and the best business owners are constantly doing it. It's not, that shopper didn't show up because he was a bad patient, which is a big thing in the orthodontic industry that people say. The virtual consultation people just want a cheap price. They just no-show. No. Practices are killing it with all this stuff, but they have to realize they have to adjust their processes in order to make it happen. Love teaching that stuff with new patient group. Rethink the image you are creating. Again, what image is being built in people's mind non-clinically? All right. Clinically too. Well, I'm going to get to that in a minute on how the receptionist speaks and why there's lost opportunities there. But non-clinically, what's the image that comes to people's mind? What makes you unique? Ask yourself, are you convenient? Do people see more value in me as compared to other places they can choose? And then realize the astonishing revenue growth you were losing. Back to the purposeful focus. If you do this consistently as a business owner, I am obsessed with what I'm showing you right now. Because in 2 slides on the purposeful focus, if all you did was make these 2 things better, look at the potential you would have. So a conservative number, 2 new patient no-shows a month, that's 24 a year, comes out to 120 grand of lost revenue that you otherwise could have had. And one of the QR codes for the free courses tonight, we have a 6 steps to reducing your no-shows course that you're going to get. So if you have no-show problems, it's a no-brainer to get that one. I want to help you there. But that equates between no-shows and missed calls to $300,000 in lost revenue in 2 things that many people don't pay any attention to whatsoever. And they're the same practices out there wondering why they're stagnant or wondering why they have to constantly spend money on pay-per-click and all these other things that you just do not need. It's why the internal always produces at a lower cost as well, a larger return on investment. But you've got to create the pain. All of you, if you don't track it or you don't pay attention to it, one of the action items when you leave here is start focusing on how many new patient no-shows you have every single month, because that one is trackable. So that one you can put your finger on. And when you combine all these together, it's unbelievable just from a new patient phone call standpoint, how much it can actually grow your practice. Another one, lack of perceived value. This one I'm probably most passionate about everything we're going to be talking about tonight. And it's the longest module within the event tonight. Now, according to Dental Economics and the Benson Koppel, people call upwards of 5 practices before deciding which to visit. All right. I want to repeat that. If you, let me go back here. There we go. If you didn't hear me or you did, I'm going to say it again. And I want you to screenshot this. All right. People call upwards of 5 practices before deciding which to visit. This is what this whole section is that your receptionist is in direct competition with the other places they've called. And oftentimes practices, the receptionist is the least trained and oftentimes, unfortunately, the least valued. Because again, competition creates commoditization, which creates shoppers. And that happens in every industry that's competitive. Every industry, whether it's healthcare or not. Every single industry that becomes over competitive becomes commoditized. And people shop. And honestly, if people are going to spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 plus, they should shop. You want to welcome that, because if you have the processes through that consumer journey that I showed you, from the way you run your business culturally to the time they shop online, et cetera, you're going to destroy people and at a higher treatment fee, and you're not going to have to advertise. Sales. Now, this is a scary word, in healthcare. I get it, but I'm going to show you why you don't need to be scared. The reason why it's a scary word is two things. One, people don't know the definition. So the domino effect, that image that comes to your mind with most people is I don't want to be a car salesman. Well, car salesman obviously can be a little scummy. I think we all can agree on that. But really, inevitably, all this means is in this new economy, you must understand and have the verbiage and presentation skills to understand how to educate in an ethical manner that places more value on you as compared to someone else or something else. That's all the definition of sales is. And I want to show you that too, because I'm going to use the terminology a lot tonight. So I don't want you to think that I'm referring to the scummy the car salesman. I'm referring to this definition. Because people are shopping, it is so critical that you have skill sets unlike ever before and trained on those skill sets that I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. Let's look at the power of a first impression, the halo effect. This is why the receptionist is so critical to your success as an orthodontic practice in competition. We've all called places. When's the last time you called a place and you hung up the phone and you're like, wow, I'm buying. I can't believe how unbelievably trained that person was. Their verbiage skills was off the charts. They made me feel so special. I just didn't even want to get off the phone. They were so amazing. Your answer is probably never. And your goal from a phone call standpoint should be to have people go and write a 5-star review on Google about you before they ever even arrive. That's how powerful the new patient phone call can be, and your onboarding process before they arrive, because there's other pieces to it as well. It's not just the call. But the halo effect is people like your entire whole. They're more inclined to like the whole. You go to a restaurant, you have a waiter that's great. You're going to leave likely going, wow, those waiters are fantastic, even though you only had one. You call a place, lady knocks it out of the park. You're like, wow, this place is fantastic, even though you just talked to one person, haven't even been there yet. You get a bad car, even though the rest of that type of car, the other million of them may have been perfect. Yours is a lemon. You're going, that thing's a piece of crap. That's the halo effect. And it's very, very powerful as it relates back to the domino effect, because the halo effect, your receptionist has the ultimate weapon of success. Because however that phone call is handled and all the processes after it before they come in, it's all building an image of exactly what your entire organization stands for. This is why before they ever come in, you've got to be an expert at the power of persuasion, how you psychologically prepare people to go, that's the place I'm buying from. And when you do, I see it with new patient group clients all the time, is that your same day starts skyrocket. Now, the problem with this is it's the same old, same old. And this is the receptionist dilemma you have. And don't be the leader that doesn't think this is happening. We do hundreds of mystery calls every month. And I'm going to showcase to you the questions we ask. And I'm going to showcase to you the responses we get. Your receptionist is not a data gathering robot. In fact, right now, you're probably asking a lot of questions on the new patient phone call that your paperwork asks as well. And then you ask the patient those things whenever they walk through the door as well. Your receptionist is your ultimate marketing and sales machine. And that's how you've got to look at them. You've got to redefine the job description, which I'm going to showcase here in just a little bit. The problem, though, is your practice is saying the same things everybody else does when people are calling around. And I'm going to prove it to you. Whenever I'm on stage, I don't show the response. I would bring somebody up and I would ask, okay, can you tell me more about what to expect at my first appointment? That's a common question brought up on a new patient phone call in dentistry and orthodontics. The response, almost to a T, every single time I bring somebody up to and obviously there's a few words that are different, but this summarizes exactly what they say because they're not trained to say anything else. They don't know. And what they say is true, but the problem is remember the domino effect. Remember, x-rays to you, fantastic diagnostic tool. X-rays to a new patient, especially one that's never been to your office, all they see is radiation. Those are things that keep them from wanting to show up. So sure, we do that. You'll come, or sure, I can answer that. You're going to come in. We'll take some x-rays, photos, and you'll meet with our doctor. Would you like to schedule? That's what receptionists say. And then you wonder why Joe, who enters your practice, is searching around for the cheapest price. Well, guess what? The other 4 practices he called said the same exact thing. So you're no different, because remember, they come from outside our world in healthcare. They don't understand. They don't understand what makes a great clinician. They don't get it. Here's another one. I have a teenage daughter that wants Invisalign, or teenage son, whatever, but it's a common one. And when I say Invisalign tonight, everybody, if you do braces, fine. You can substitute whatever word in place of Invisalign. It's all going to be the same. We'll just call it clear aligners. Your response, okay, well, what's her name? Or they say, okay, would you like to schedule? See, the receptionist assumes that just because the phone call is happening, they're calling to schedule, or even if they do schedule, that they're going to buy. And those days are unfortunately over. Here's another one. Lack of perceived value. Caller, does your practice do Invisalign? You. Yes. Caller, well, can you tell me more about it? And then the receptionist goes into the sales spiel about explaining about Invisalign, the tool. Right? Well, sure. Well, they're clear. You switch the trays out every week or two. You place these little things in your teeth called attachments. You want to come in? Exactly what every receptionist does. Why? Well, 1, it's true. And 2, no one's ever trained them anything else to say. These things are happening every single day at your practice, and it's a lack of building value. And you've got to build value in order to increase sales. Take a look at this. Let's go through some examples of what you could say, and you can see how this is going to separate you on those same common questions that you get asked every day. Screenshot this, the course well, there's a QR code if you want the course. This scripting right here. Now, mind you, you're probably the only consultant and marketing company on the planet you'll ever hear say this is I don't like scripts. Scripts are necessary to get you started, but you've got to be able to role play and practice enough in order to just do it on your own. C3PO doesn't make sales. You and your heart and your passion make sales. All right. You can't be robotic. The same thing goes back to the first date. If you're robotic using a script on a first date, guess what? You're not getting a second one. So can you tell me more about what to expect at my first visit? Well, absolutely, I can. I'd be happy to. We value your time, and therefore you'll be greeted by Debbie the moment you walk through the door. She's fantastic. She's been here 10 years. She's our treatment coordinator. She's going to spend a ton of time with you whenever you're here. Our patients just adore. You're going to love her. Matter of fact, she's going to show you an awesome one. I'm about to say, everybody, you have to remember, it's another reason why I like OrthoFi. This is a big mistake people make. Your digital workflow, when people say that, so I'm a speaker for Invisalign. Invisalign, the same thing. We talk to reps. When people think that, when reps say that, they're thinking iTero. The processes with Invisalign, other types of clear aligners. What you have to remember is your digital workflow starts way before. It starts with you being a leader, because you've got to say, hey, how can we innovate? How can we be digital? It goes to your online marketing, because you have to have YouTube videos that showcase this stuff to make it sound like you're the only one in town that has an iTero machine, as an example, how you use it, the cool outcome simulator, get people excited to pick up the phone to call you. Then when they call you, you have to edify these things. Why? Well, because if 5 practices all have the iTero, and they're probably not using it as effectively as they otherwise could, but if they have one, well, that means the iTero does not make you unique. What makes you unique is your receptionist actually using it as a sales tool on the phone, right? People don't want to hear about x-rays and photos. As a matter of fact, there's tons of clinicians now just using the iTero on the new patient exam and killing it. Now, it doesn't mean they don't take photos and x-rays, but they do that if the patient buys. But she is going to show you an awesome 3D rendering of what your smile is going to look like when you are finished with treatment. It's amazing technology. I'm so proud to work for this practice, because Dr. Jones is always investing in these cool things that our patients just love to give you the best result. And then you're going to meet with Dr. Pascal. He's amazing, best clinician and leader I've ever worked for. And you're in great hands. We'll be amazed at the experience our team provides you. You see, and you ask yourself, how does that compare to the other 4 practices that said what I said earlier? Yeah, you'll meet the doctor. We'll take some x-rays and photos. You want to come in? And see, what you see on the screen there takes role plays and practice, a commitment to excellence. But boy, oh boy, when you pull it off, so our Wright chat agents are all trained by me with our new patient group program. And I can tell you just from the amount of training I've trained them on and our new patient group phone training clients, it takes a long time. It's a commitment. It's a commitment to consistency and accountability. But boy, oh boy, when it works, it's amazing. And then you see, finish it off. We have a virtual or an in-office appointment available. Which would you prefer? Now, if you're not to that point yet, you don't have a virtual, then you offer them 2 times. Okay, so easy, but so hard at the same time because no one's doing this. Caller, I have a teenage daughter that wants Invisalign. Okay, well, thank you so much for calling and welcome into our orthodontic family. So excited to have you. It's awesome your daughter wants Invisalign. It's a fantastic product, and you've definitely called the right place. Dr. Reynolds specializes in Invisalign for teenagers, just like your daughter. In fact, she's the leading Invisalign teen provider in Michigan. So you're in great hands. Let's get you scheduled. Let's come on in. We have a virtual appointment or an in-office appointment available. Which would you prefer? So much different than what you heard before. Does your practice do Invisalign? Remember before, yeah, we do it. You want to come in? Or they talked about Invisalign. What you have to remember, I'm going to show you a video here. It's one of my favorite YouTube videos. We do a lot of YouTube marketing for clients. And the ones that actually take the time to produce content absolutely transform their career because of how powerful YouTube is. It's the most underutilized online marketing tool, period, end of story, that there is. And if you use it right, by the time they call you, they've already moved another step down that journey of buying from you because of how much value creation you can build. Now, your practice, does it do Invisalign? Absolutely, we do it. It's a fantastic product. But the key is it's a fantastic product when you choose the right doctor to do it. See, consumers shopping around, their mindset is I'm buying the tool, braces, Invisalign, whatever it is. That's what's in their mind. They don't think about what the real investment is, and that's the doctor. It's your job as a practice to educate them and sell them and change their mindset from the tool to you. So you've got to choose the right doctor. In fact, Dr. Skopak is the #1 provider in Chicago and one of the top providers in the entire country. Matter of fact, you should check out, when we get off this call, you should check out our YouTube station if you haven't already. There's just tons of fantastic content on there. You can learn a ton from them on there. We just love them. Think of it this way. What makes a painting gorgeous, it's not the brush, but rather the artist using the brush. And we like to say that around here because it's important you understand that. And because that same thinking is true in orthodontics. Invisalign is the brush, braces is the brush. Our doctor is the artist, and we're proud to have the best one in the profession. So let's get you scheduled. Same thing. Completely different. And I'm going to showcase a video to you right now. Some of you, if you've seen me speak, you might have heard this. I'm going to play a video of Dr. Skopak. This is the image that you must create prior to the person ever coming in to see you.
Hey guys, Dr. Skopak Orthodontics, and I've been an orthodontist now for 25 years. I finished dental school 30 years ago. We all go to dental school, become dentists, and then we go through extra education to become an orthodontist. And we learn to use all kinds of stuff like this to straighten your teeth. And it's great, it all works great. You know, you have nice straight teeth, your bite fits well, that's awesome. But now, all of that stuff can be replaced with the Invisalign aligners. It's awesome. It's so much more comfortable. It works as well or better than any of those other appliances. Now, but what you have to think of is Invisalign as a tool. It's a tool we use. If you're gonna have a house built, if you're gonna have a house built, you don't buy a hammer, you buy the person that swings the hammer. If you're gonna buy Invisalign, if you're gonna get your teeth fixed, you're buying the doctor that prescribes this. You're not buying Invisalign. And we hear all the time, you know, I'm doing Invisalign, I'm buying Invisalign. You're not. It's a tool that we use. It's like the hammer, it's like the braces, it's the aligners, and it's awesome. But
just for time purposes, that video is almost over, so we'll keep moving on. But that's the kind of thing, the power of persuasion. Imagine a shopper coming across that prior to them ever calling your practice. See, nobody outside of the industry thinks that way. So it's your job to educate them. It's the same thing with new patient group. All right. All of this stuff for us from a new patient group standpoint mean that we have to produce content to walk people's mindset down from what they think they want to what they actually need. It's the same thing with your practice, and the receptionist is a huge part of that. Your phone call is not a data gathering session. It's a sales call. It's so critical to understand that. And you need sometimes also to initiate the value proposition. Maybe there's not one of those questions asked, but still the value proposition has got to be sprinkled in throughout that call. And this does not mean we want a 25-minute call, by the way. Everything I'm teaching right now should be 5 minutes or under. So Mrs. Jones, and this is another way you can use OrthoFi as a tool to get people to come in and buy to begin with. They've got so many tools to help you once you're inside the door, but this is also how you get them to show up to begin with and see additional value. And Mrs. Jones, one of the things you're going to love about our office is the advanced technology. And I'm sure you've probably I'm sure you've been to practices before. You probably had to print out new patient forms or, before, or you got a clipboard when you showed up. Nobody likes that. So our office is going to it's just going to go the extra mile for you. All right. We're going to make sure that we're convenient, and you're going to be able to fill all of that out right on your cell phone. It's simple, streamlined, and makes it so much more convenient for you. So again, going back, persuasion, domino effect. What image is being built in this person's head with this kind of verbiage, right? Remember, most people you deal with are outside of healthcare. So they're going to know if somebody's been trained, and they're going to appreciate it. Wow, this practice takes time to train their people. It's no different than you appreciating a high-end restaurant where you clearly see that the waiters have different verbiage skills than the other 5 places you've been. It's the same thing. Biggest difference here is they haven't decided to show up yet. And there are missed calls. There are no-shows, but there's also people that are calling your practice and deciding not to schedule at all. And what you have to remember, receptionists, if you're on, this isn't a shot at you at all. What you have to remember is Betty, the receptionist, is not going to run to you as the business owner or office manager and go, hey, I dropped 3 calls today. Like, that doesn't happen. But it does happen, especially the better your marketing is. You're going to get inquiries, and you've got to be able to nail it. And you've got to be able to showcase that you're the innovative one, the advanced thinker. You can't have any kind of representation that you're yesterday's news. It just doesn't work in orthodontics anymore at all. And that's where these deliver a smooth, contactless onboarding experience that truly gets results comes in. It's so easy. It makes everything simple for you. And I'm going to talk about verifying insurance early and how you ask for it on the phone here in just a little bit. But the reality is even when I do talk about it, even when you get stuff, you still have to verify it. You still have to, this makes it so much easier from A to Z. But right now we're really talking about A, B, and C, the front end, before they ever even show up to the door, this onboarding. Make it easy for yourself. Make it easy for that consumer that is trying to schedule at your practice. The other one is the cheat sheet. Now, this goes in a little bit more to the next webinar, and that's going to be more, okay, now you hung up. What can you do prior to them showing up to really stand out? Because most people, and you've scheduled at a family physician or a dermatologist or your dentist, whatever it may be, what happens? Well, you get boring text reminders, and practices convince themselves that somehow that's going to help with their no-shows. The reality is it doesn't. There's no data that shows that. And we have data that when you reduce that and replace it with other stuff that's cool and innovative, your no-shows actually are significantly reduced. We're going to dive into that. And this cheat sheet is one of them, right? It makes you not have to ask as many questions on the new patient phone call, which, please, God, don't sit there and have an interview session. There are industry consultants that sit there and teach people you need to be on the phone for 20 minutes. There's actually other ones that say you've got to be off in under 2 minutes. And the reality is, if you're off in under 2 minutes, that worked before there was competition. And it also worked when you're on there for 20 minutes having an interview session. But if you want a surefire way of people having the wrong perception of you, try to ask 25 questions that then they fill out on the paperwork anyway. It just makes you the same old healthcare practice they've ever been to. Do it unique and focus with a purpose. Here's an exercise for all of you. And do this individually, because then you get to compare what everybody says. Because as a leader to a leader here, business owner, it's your job that the employees understand your core values, your mission, your vision statement, your why, all of that stuff. But it's also up to you to make sure they understand what actually makes you unique. So to say some of the things that I said earlier, like the iTero machine, well, you actually have to use it on every new patient consult. It's a big part of our training. Our lead TC coach, Debbie, you'll see her in a video here, is the lead TC speaker for Invisalign, and she's one of my coaches. We are big on the ins and outs of all those features. But you can't say that you're going to use it on the new patient phone call if you don't actually use it when they show up. You got to be truthful. Remember, sales, educating ethically, truthfully. So do this. Write down 3 things. Have each person write down 3 things on why they believe your practice is different clinically than all the other choices people have. And then do the same exercise for the non-clinical things. And what you will find is a lot of times people have an easier time writing down the non-clinical than the clinical. And then as a leader, it's up to you to let them know what does make you unique. And they need to understand that that's what they're selling. It's not Invisalign. It's how you do it. Maybe you do it with less appointments. You use dental monitoring. And I'm a speaker for DM, and this is what we teach. Don't call it dental monitoring. Brand it your own. Scopac Remote, Whitlock Time Saver, et cetera, or Schaefer Time Saver, Whitlock on the go. That way you can edify that on the phones. Better clinical results, less appointments, more convenience. And by the way, all of those things equate to you being able to charge more. And then get together with these exercises, see what people have done, come together on a conclusion, and then you got to practice. And that's the inevitable one. No athlete doesn't get in the batting cage or shoot jumpers, but that happens in business all the time. Practice and role plays as a regular part of your operation is almost non-existent. Almost non-existent. But practice and role plays are inevitable to become great and always improve yourself. Now, the inability to convert price shoppers. So a couple things. This is off. I'm not going to get on a tangent here. This wouldn't even, when you speak, or at least when I do, get different things pop in my brain. The more pay-per-click ads you do as a practice, the more price shoppers you're going to get. Why? Go to Google right now and type in braces in wherever, Invisalign wherever, orthodontist wherever, and almost every pay-per-click ad that shows is going to be price sensitive. $500 off this. Get this free. So therefore, you wonder why you're getting people looking for a cheap price. It's your marketing, which is why our whole marketing division, we don't want people to spend money on pay-per-click. We want you to be what's called prestige pricing. There's a whole course around it. Prestige pricing is intentionally being the most expensive and then doing everything throughout that consumer journey to represent why people should pay more. And if you're online dumping in pay-per-click ads, that same expense that you have should be dumped inside your doors and also to organic content online. And you'll never have to spend another pay-per-click nickel the rest of your life. But inevitably, even if you're not doing pay-per-click, you're going to get it sometimes. And again, if people are shopping around and they don't see any value proposition online that's different between you and 4 other places, of course they're going to ask how much you charge. They would be crazy not to. Because the time they're talking on the new patient call, at that point, they don't see anything different between you and other people. Unless your website looks unique, you have great video content in your YouTube station, everything's got to look high end. Then psychologically, they start to move towards, okay, this place is different. They do have a YouTube station with 300 videos. I see the doctor's family and the employees. I see them having fun. I see clinical education. Doesn't mean you're not going to still get a price question, but it means you're going to get less of them because they're starting to see value. And this one, inability to convert price shoppers, not on a cheap price, but the inability to convert price shoppers to come in and buy from you for the value you believe you offer above the other people in your area. Let's dive into this. We've all have this. How much do you charge for Invisalign, whatever clear aligner, braces, etc.? Because the more shoppers, remember, the more competition creates shoppers because of commoditization and the more types of questions you get. And there are, again, industry consultants that are actually teaching what I'm about to talk about. When I refer to as mistakes, they're actually telling people to do it. So let's take a look at this. We charge $5,000 for Invisalign or for braces or whatever. Would you like to schedule? Okay. Because you just asked, the person says, how much do you charge for X? And you respond back with, we charge $5,000 for Invisalign. Would you like to come in? Now, if you called 1,000 practices right now, 99.9% of them, maybe even arguably 100% of them, are going to do one of the two things that I'm talking about. This is the first. How much do you charge for? Well, we charge $6,000 for Invisalign. Would you like to come in? The only way that works is if you're the cheapest. So if your business model, and there's nothing wrong with this, by the way, it's not a good fit with our company, but the Best Western out there, they do pretty darn well for themselves, and they're a low end. If your model is, I want to be the cheapest in town, I want to get as many people through the door as I can and take my chances, then yeah, quoting the total fee, that works for you. Why? Because you're going to be the cheapest of the 5 they've called. You win. And I can assure you the other receptionists are not going to convert them differently than what I'm going to show you here. Right? So if you want to be the cheapest, that works. But here's the thing, and you have to, this is always pushing yourself to learn. This is straight out of our financial presentation course that's on our on-demand, one of our on-demand courses in our MPG University platform, talks heavily about this and the mistakes you're making when presenting money. Anchoring bias is a cognitive bias that causes us to rely very heavily on the first piece of information we're given about a topic. Money is probably the biggest scenario where this is the case. And what inevitably happens is we interpret newer information from the reference point of our anchor instead of seeing it objectively. And it can lead to skewed judgment. Anchoring bias is another form of sticker shock, which is one of the biggest reasons people do not buy orthodontic treatment today. Doesn't mean they may not later, but it's one of the biggest reasons they don't buy now. It's shock or dismay experienced by the potential buyers of a particular product after discovering its high or increased price. So if you want a surefire way, unless you want to be cheapest, if you want a surefire way to get price shoppers to see no value in you whatsoever, and to most likely say, I need to think about it and hang up, or they'll schedule and then you wonder why they no-show. A lot of times people are embarrassed to go, you just kind of missed what I wanted. What they do is go, okay, I'll schedule. And they never show up. Important you know this stuff. Here's another one. Well, how much do you charge for Invisalign? Same thing. Well, we can't. And this is one that's taught by industry consultants all over the place. And this worked back before people called multiple practices before you answered the phone or are thinking about calling multiple ones after they speak with you first. Well, we can't quote fees over the phone. We need to see you. You need to come in. Would you like to schedule? Those two ways that I described to you are how every receptionist, minus the very, very few that have been highly trained on what I'm about to show you, that's how they answer it. So inevitably, what you're telling that patient is, no, I'm not going to answer your question. You're also putting up barriers to entry. And when people are looking around, that doesn't work anymore. If you want to be viewed as value instead of a cheapie. All right. So you're probably asking yourself, well, Brian, well, geez, if they ask and I can't quote the fee and then I can't quote the total price either. Well, what the heck do you want me to do? And this is where you've got to continue your learning process. We do. What I'm about to show you 5 years ago was different. Why has it changed? Well, because every year we redo our program. Why? The consumer changes. The industry changes. How could anybody teach today what they taught 5, 10 years ago? But unfortunately, that happens all the time and people hire them. You've got to learn how to build value while also creating clinical confusion. And here's what I mean by this. A lot of people see this work. If you read it like C-3PO, it's not going to work. But if you commit to practicing and getting this to where it's you will not believe how many people schedule after you say what I'm about to show you. They forget that they even asked the price question. Now, if they come back and ask it again, I'm going to show you the next step. I'm also going to show you how OrthoFi plays into this. How much does Invisalign cost? Well, Mrs. Jones, that's a fantastic question. So glad you asked. As a matter of fact, we get asked that all the time. Dr. Whitlock, because Dr. Whitlock is the #1 Invisalign provider in the entire state of Arkansas. Now, that paragraph alone, I'm going to continue. Don't worry, that's not the response, just the response. That's the first part. But in our phone course, you'll learn more about this. New patient group clients that are on, you can appreciate this. Packed in that one small little paragraph are 3 big-time, powerful psychological tools that absolutely create, that absolutely work. Positive connotation, consensus, authority, and more. All right, so after that, continue. You know the ... It's not period. Okay, so Mrs. Jones, fantastic question. Get asked it all the time because Dr. Whitlock is the #1 provider of Invisalign in the entire state. I want you to know something. Everything we do, and this is important that your mindset's here, Mrs. Jones, everything we do is fully customized with enormous attention to detail that ensures impeccable results for every patient, which includes you, that we have. Therefore, your investment in treatment is unique, and it's unique because it's unique to your own journey, your own personal wants and needs. It's not the same. And I would avoid any practice that quotes you a fee because they're telling you it's a one-size-fits-all. So therefore, to answer your question accurately, please let me know what type of malocclusion classification you are. And meanwhile, what you've done is you've planted an entire world into this patient's mind that they never even remotely thought of thinking about before. And you've also brought something clinically to their mind that confused them, meaning they're never going to know. Now, you always get the random receptionist that goes, what if they know? Like that's one of those, who cares? If they know, then you should give them treatment for free. I mean, you're never going to run across a situation where that's going to happen. Because that's what they're going to do, is you're going to hear this silence. And then you're going to hear, what's that? I don't know what that is. Well, Mrs. Jones, that is exactly why we want to see you. And that's exactly why we want to customize something special just for you. Because our practice is all about combining advanced technologies that give you the best clinical results and overall experience. As a matter of fact, you're going to meet with Debbie. She's the best treatment coordinator I've ever worked with. She's going to make it affordable, and she's going to make it affordable because of this awesome technology we utilize that allows you the freedom to choose really whichever payment plan you want. Paid in full discounts, low monthly payments as low as $147 a month. Now, I'm making that number up, but your practice, that's the beauty of the slider. You can drag it to whatever you want. The lowest monthly payment sounds the best to get people through the door, right? But what you haven't done at all whatsoever is cheapened your brand. You haven't done anything at all that's going to make you lower your fee. You haven't done anything at all to get that person to not see value in you. See, if that question is asked to 2, 3, 4, 5 practices, and you are the one that responds this way, you are going to get the business, unless that person only cares, and no matter what you tell them, they're not going to change their mind. Unless that person only cares about a cheapie, that's the only way you do not win in this situation. Now, again, me personally, I teach business owners in and out of healthcare. I want you to intentionally be the most expensive and then set everything up on the consumer journey A through Z to make sure they understand why you are. Because you organically attract another consumer. It's the same thing. You're walking down the street, you have a bar on the left, and that bar is free to get into. And you have a bar on the right, and the cover charge is $300. It doesn't mean one's bad and one's good, but the point is the $300 cover charge is going to attract an entirely different type of consumer, which means you don't need to see as many people because you're making more money off of every one you do close. And they're going to refer like this. Man, oh gosh, Dr. Skopak, he is amazing. What an unbelievable. I mean, they treat you so great. I love them. I got the best results. They're right on time all the time. I mean, that is a first-class organization. Bam. That's the type of referral you want, as opposed to, hey, guess what? Dr. So-and-so down the street gave me a cheapie. And then you wonder why you have this ever revolving door, the way your website looks, the advertisements you're running. You wonder why you're stuck in this, I've got to charge a cheap price for these shoppers. These are the ways you get out of that world. Okay? Very, very powerful stuff. Let's take a look at a couple of things here. And I want to go in. This is not exactly related to the new patient phone call, but you will see when you can use tools like this, and this is the beauty of outsourcing. See, the reality is OrthoFi, Invisalign, and a lot of other companies out there that are really great. The reality of the situation is they have much deeper pockets than you. Not a criticism. It's just the reality of the situation. They have deeper pockets than us. And when you can do that, or when you utilize, what you get is you're basically diving into their pockets and piggybacking off of the technology they can afford that you just simply can't. And this payment slider is a total game changer, especially if you combine it with proper presentation skills. Heck, actually, if you just use it and hand it to people, it's better than what most TCs do now. There's data that proves that, by the way, that we won't get into tonight. But you see, all these types of things improve your practice. But it goes back to the verbiage skills. See, the slider is worthless if you can't get them through the door, or if you do get them through the door and they have the wrong mindset. See, there's so many people earlier when I talked about persuasion versus persuasion. This is an industry, when they think about increase in treatment conversion, they immediately think treatment coordinator. What we think is every bit of the journey, the culture you have, your online marketing, how the new patient phone call goes. It all has a direct and indirect impact on someone going, here's my money, and paying more at the same time. And this also goes back to a purposeful focus. I am giving you the recipe of how new patient group clients absolutely kick everyone's butt, and why we have some of the biggest names in orthodontics, and why we have the biggest names in orthodontics that I speak for. But it's a rare breed, meaning you have to be a little off your rocker like a famous athlete, because our message attracts people that want to do it differently than everybody else in the industry. They do not want to be the same, which is why they're seeking me. I've come from outside of your world. Now I know it backwards and forwards now, but our methodologies and how we view everything comes from somebody outside of orthodontics. And if you look at billionaires with a B, the number one trait of billionaires is they have a coach. So you look at that and you say a billionaire has a coach. Why wouldn't everybody? But there's a common theme with those coaches. Almost every single one of them has zero industry experience as it relates to where the industry is that billionaire's in. Billionaires do not want anything to do with asking somebody inside their industry for help. Why? Because when you look outside, everything is challenged. Why do you have the phones up front? That's the last place you'd want it. Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Why? Which sometimes you don't get for someone that lives in the environment. Now, we believe, and it's why I have clinicians as coaches, Dr. Bart, Dr. Rob, as well as an active TC and Debbie, as well as coaches outside of healthcare. Because when you combine the two together, that's when it's the most powerful. And this exactly, look at the bottom of the screen. From three things. Now, I could have added other examples in here with purposeful focus. But the inability to convert price shoppers is happening to your practice. Now, your receptionist isn't telling you, but it's happening. Now, it may happen once this month, no times next month, 3 the next. It's not the same every month. But let's say it averages out to 2 new patients lost every month. And remember, though, that doesn't necessarily mean they didn't schedule. They may have scheduled and showed up, or they may have scheduled and no-showed you, or they may have scheduled, showed up, and not bought. And you're sitting there wondering why. Well, you can tie a lot of this stuff back to the onboarding acquisition processes, which tonight is the new patient phone call, has a direct impact in all of it. It's not just the persuasion once they walk through the door. It's all before, everybody, all before. So take a look. 2 new patients on average a month. That's 24 a year. Charging $5,000, which again, I hope you're way more than that, but let's just use a simple example. That's $120,000 in lost revenue. And if you combine it with no shows and missed calls, you're losing $420,000 a year without even knowing it. And this is the biggest challenge, again, is the pain creation. Because if this was yanked out of your bank account like your clear aligner fee, you would be jumping up and down every day searching for solutions. But we say when we look at our clients, and they're always 10 to 30% larger growth standpoint than the industry average in orthodontics year to year, and they do it without spending a nickel on advertising. This is how they do it. Now, this applied to every touch point, because our private clients, we work with them hands-on every month on every single one of those touch points from A to Z. So you're looking at growth just as it relates to one part of the journey. And obviously you're not going to capture every one, but what if you just captured, I don't know, conservative 10 to 12% of that 420? And you did 10 to 12% on every single touch point along the journey. That's how you grow 10, 20, 30+% every year for the rest of your life without advertising. Lack of early insurance for verification. Like I said, in the on-demand course, there's going to be more, but for time purposes, I didn't want to do 5,000 of them. And I hope everyone's enjoying tonight. If you've seen new patient group clients out there, hey there, Wright Chat clients, same way. If you're not a client and you haven't seen me speak before, or you have and you're not a client, something to know about me is that I do decks, I redo decks. I don't sleep for a week until I believe it's as good as it possibly can be, because it's my dream to be able to sit back here, and even if I impact and change just one of your lives, it means the world to me. I wake up every day believing everybody can achieve prosperity, but you have to think differently in order to do it. And the beauty is prosperity means something different to everybody. But I believe you can do it. But you've got to be the person that does it differently than your buddies, your girlfriends. Doesn't mean you can't ask for advice, but you've got to come outside the comfort zone. And I hope a bunch of stuff tonight is making you rethink what's going on every single day inside your practice. Because a lot of these things, there's no way you ever are going to know they're happening. It's not possible. But you have to assume they are. And every one of you listening, it's happening in a different way. Some of you, I can promise you, if you're a single practice and busy, I guarantee you, you're missing 5 to 10 new patient calls a month. Guaranteed. Why? And it's why with Wright Chat, we now offer a double your return on investment or all of your money back. Why? Because we see it with our clients. It's the biggest no-brainer on the planet. But every one of those, they didn't know it was happening. You've got to change that mindset. So passionate about that. Lack of early insurance verification. Now, there's something I call the insurance dilemma. This is in a lot of our courses because this also occurs when they're inside your practice. Here's what the insurance dilemma is. What you have to remember, again, is that they're shopping, right? So let's say they're shopping and there's 2 other opinions they're thinking about. Well, if those people take insurance just like you do, well, the reality is the dilemma is that the insurance coverage is going to be the same with those practices as it is yours. All right. If it's great insurance, it's going to be great with those practices. If it's bad insurance, it's going to be bad with those practices, just like it is yours. So the reality of the situation is insurance is not necessarily a reason people are going to choose you over somebody else. However, it becomes a game of 2 very simple but very important items, because this is how you use insurance to where it is a reason they're going to buy from you. It's how and when you receive it and how and when you communicate it to the patient about their benefits. All right. If you're a practice that has a clipboard and they come in, you are living in a world where you've got to change, because the same day start, when I say same day start, just to make sure everybody understands, it's the same day financial commitment. Okay. Doesn't mean that you're putting on the brake. It's just the same day financial commitment. You can't have a 2, 3, 4 appointment process if you want to thrive in this industry. Those days are gone. They just are. You've got to reshape the mindset. So this game is these 2 things: when you get it and when you communicate it. And you've got to turn it into a customer experience. You've got to take your mind and turn everything into how can we spin it as an experience thing. It's something I obsess with my new patient group and Wright chat employees. Talk to our web designers with new patient group all the time. I tell them, you're not a web designer. You're a client experience expert that happens to do websites. Because the website can be great, but if they don't like you, everything is difficult, the process takes forever, et cetera, then everything goes down the toilet. It's all customer experience. How can you get to be customer experience? And this, again, is where OrthoFi plays in. And let's talk about this, all right? There is a direct correlation, just so you all know. And I think a lot of times, if you sat there and talked to 100 people, this would be common sense. But the problem is that nobody changes if they aren't doing it and getting insurance early, because there's a direct correlation between early insurance verification and same-day starts. There just is. And just starts in general, not necessarily just same-day financial commitments, but also just whether or not they start with your practice at all. And is it imperative you are receiving insurance early, that you're verifying it, communicating it to the patient, and having everything ready to roll for that same-day start? And by the way, consumers don't know they can get started day one. This goes back to persuasion. So your receptionist needs to tell them, Mrs. Jones, we respect your time. Therefore, we're going to have everything ready to roll when you show up. And you can get started with your treatment right then and there. That simple comment right there. If you did nothing else the rest of your life, but put that line in every new patient call, your same-day starts will go up. Why? Because you're educating them on that's even possible. Consumers don't even know. They don't come prepared. That's why we got to talk to dad, which, by the way, sometimes is translation, I'm buying somewhere else. They just don't tell you that. Other times it is true. But new patient group, or excuse me, OrthoFi over here, there's the data. When you get insurance early and you have it verified, look, it's almost a 20% increase in your conversion. Now, OrthoFi clients that also use new patient group, that number is actually 84.3% because we keep data on all of this stuff. Why? Because on top of having OrthoFi as a great tool, they're also being taught all of these skill sets throughout the consumer journey. And when you combine the tool with experience and you understand how to sell, everything goes crazy at the practice. Now let's look at why, excuse me, let's look at why you may have not got insurance prior to arrival. Lack of perceived value by the patient, I believe, is one of the biggest, right? They just don't, why am I going to take the time? I'll do it when I get there, right? That's kind of the mindset. That's a hassle. I just don't want to do it. Your analog processes be another one. You have a clipboard or you send out paperwork. And remember, digital is not a PDF file that they have to print. Digital is OrthoFi, where it's right on their phone. They type some things in, blah, 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 nice and streamlined, send it off. The other one is lack of perceived value by the practice. Receptionists, if you're on here, if there's any on here, again, not a shot. None of this is a shot at you. This isn't like, let's hammer the receptionist night. Hopefully you're looking at this as, wow, there's a whole nother world and way of doing things, just as relates to the phone. And that also applies to every other touch point a consumer's going through. There's a whole nother world way to do it. So it's not let's hammer the receptionist party tonight. But the reality is receptionists they're not the business owner. So you're not going to, and this, of course, there's exceptions to everything, but you're not going to have most receptionists go, wow, well, we got to get this thing early so we can get that same day start. Or doctor, we got to change our processes. No, it's not going to happen. It's kind of like, yeah, whatever. It's not my business. And if you feel that's the case at your practice, that's a direct relation to a culture problem. Again, not a criticism. We all deal with it as business owners. So those three right there. And how are people viewing you? And I'm going to show you something. On the right, there's going to be a video that's going to play in a minute. That is our lead TC coach, Debbie. A wonderful girl. She's one of the nicest, kindest people you could ever possibly imagine, and really, really good at what she does. And that edification that I just gave Debbie, or the edification Brian Lewis gave me at the beginning of this, that's what's got to happen on your new patient call. Now, how do you place more value on the patient seeing, well, long story short, how do you get the patient to value giving you the insurance more? And here's what you can't say. Like most practices, back to the, if you called 1,000 practices, this is what they all say. Are you going to be using insurance, or what insurance will you be using, please? Something like that. Well, that's fine. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with anything you're doing. It's just a matter of tweaking everything. Or you call a practice again that says, Mrs. Jones, we respect your time and want to make sure we have everything ready to roll so you can get started at your very first treatment, your very first visit. So therefore, please provide me with the insurance you'll be using so we can get that verified for you. So let me finish, because we're not done. Also, our treatment coordinator, Debbie, will be sending you a video via text message that introduces herself and goes over your insurance coverage. Now, something interesting. This goes to the digital world, and you've all done it. We've called places, they don't answer, or you get called and you don't answer. Why? We live in a spam universe, right? I got 17 spam, literally 17 spam calls today while I was building out this deck for tonight. It was nonstop. And they've gotten so good that it comes in the area code. When I travel, I just left Arkansas. By the time I got to the airport, I was receiving spam calls with Arkansas area codes. Same thing happened in Illinois. I went to see Rob Schaefer. Boom. They're experts at it now. It's scary. It's really weird. It's like they're tracking you. But there is an 80% increase in you getting a hold of somebody by just texting them a video as opposed to calling them. Emails, phone calls are becoming outdated. Text message is the way most people communicate. You're on your go. You're like this all the time, et cetera, et cetera. And remember back, it's a game. It's when you get it, but it's also then when and how you communicate it to them. And OrthoFi has direct statistics on this, and so do we. That if you give the patient, even if the insurance is bad, if you communicate the benefits to the patient prior to them arriving, you instantly increase your chances significantly of them buying from you. And it goes back to the other practices that they've scheduled with. Guess what? They're not doing this. So meanwhile, even if it's bad, maybe it covers $300. Well, you know what? That's more than the other practices because they haven't told them anything. And then it's experience. Your mindset has got to be around experience. If you have a treatment coordinator that thinks what I'm about to show you is too much work, that's a culture problem. And this is not necessarily new patient phone call related. This is a little bit of an example of what happens before they come in. Going back to, are you at practice sending text message reminders in this normal healthcare feel? Or are you offering an immersive experience, taking that person outside of their realm, what Walt Disney is so famous for, and exactly what we teach, is making sure they do not feel like they're dealing with a healthcare practice. We want them at every step of the journey to go, what's going on here? We want them to be so wowed every time. And that's how you grow in a competitive industry. And it's also how you grow because most people don't think about that in a competitive industry. They're thinking about advertising. Meanwhile, you are advertising. You're just doing it inside your doors. Now, here's an example of a TC video, short, to the point, but this is how you would do it.
Hi, Mrs. Jones and Joseph. I can't wait to see you. You may have heard about me on the new patient phone call. My name is Debbie Cadu, and I am the treatment coordinator here at Discover Orthodontics. I want to let you know, as soon as you step foot through our doors, I will be here to greet you because we want to make sure that we get your appointment started right away. Your time is valuable and important to us, and we absolutely respect it. I have some great news as well. I was able to check on your insurance, and you have fantastic coverage. I actually do not see this for a lot of people. You have $1,500 towards your orthodontic investment, and that should help you to get started with Joseph's treatment when you come in. We also have a great machine that's pretty cool. I can't wait for you to show you. It's a scanner, and with that scanner, we can actually show you a 3D rendering of what Joseph's teeth can look like when he has orthodontic treatment.
Now I'm going to pause this just for time purposes because I want to make sure we get some question and answers in. Here's the thing. Use a ton of verbiage in that is new patient group trained. One, the word investment, right? There's something called a trigger word in sales. Trigger words are used every single day by all of us without even knowing it. That keeps people from buying, right? The word recommend is a trigger word. By definition, it's optional, not needed. The domino effect builds that image. Therefore, people don't start. Fees, banks, interest, payment, all of those things are trigger words to avoid. So you heard her say investment. That is training I give my coaches to make sure they execute inside the practices, because every word matters. You also heard her talk and edify the insurance coverage. Not that many people have it, right? When's the last time you dealt with a healthcare environment that sent a video to you? The video needs to be under 1 minute, so that way you can text it out. It's convenient because you can do that whenever it's convenient for you, instead of sitting around a desk all day making phone calls. You can make that yourself conveniently, ideally at least 48 hours prior to them coming in. How cool is that too? And what you also notice is her talk about the iTero machine. Why is she talking about it? Well, because the receptionist should be talking about it. You're telling a story, everybody. This A to Z journey is a story, and it only takes one page to break the story. It only takes one hand in the pot of the recipe to mess the recipe up. She also talked about, on the new patient phone call, you might have heard about me. Why? Because the receptionist is supposed to edify the treatment coordinator on the new patient call. Now you're putting a face to what they've already heard. Hey, that's Debbie. I heard Judy, the receptionist, talk about her. Again, it's a wow factor. And it works better than a phone call. We live in a video world. Google owns YouTube. People watch videos. They would rather watch than read. Anything you can turn into a short, quick, cool video, do it easy on your time. And again, the other 3 practices they've called, do you think they're doing that? No. And I'm giving you a lot tonight. That's one thing that I pride when I speak. I want you walking away and remembering this night for the rest of your life. Do I want you to be a client of Wright, Chat, and New Patient Group? Of course. I think anybody would be lying if they sat here and said no. But the reality is if you implement what you're learning tonight, you are going to grow like you cannot believe. But you have,
cool.
you have to have a purposeful focus. Have to have a purposeful focus and realize the lost opportunities that you're having. Okay, on the no-shows, earlier we talked about those. All right, all of these things, you've got to have a purposeful focus. And that was a missed slide. I did not put those slides in there right, but this is the one I want to go to. On early verification is another reason why OrthoFi is so valuable. It's another reason why you miss phone calls. It's another reason why when I get to training employees here in a minute, is you've got to understand all the things when you're on the phone, it doesn't even put you in a good mood. If you do verify their insurance and hang up, well, congratulations, but you're still aggravated because you just waited on hold for 30 minutes. It's a pain in the butt. It doesn't put people in a good mindset. It takes forever. Not to mention Betty, who wants to check out, she's a patient ready to check out, yet you're on the phone trying to verify insurance. So the verification of insurance very much is how the receptionist places value on it, but it's also the tools that you have thereafter. And that's where OrthoFi comes in. All of this stuff goes into same-day starts. It increases your completion rate. It just makes it easy. And you've got to avoid this. Will you be using insurance? I brought this up earlier, but I want you to see the slide. It just comes across as just like everybody else. Every practice you've ever called in your life, dentist, dermatologist, plastic surgeon, that's the question. They don't turn it into an experience-oriented situation on explaining why you want it. And this is what should be up here. That earlier, that was a mistaken slide. Forgot to take it out. Start paying attention and tracking. This is the focus with a purpose. How often, how many times every month are new patients showing up to your door without having their insurance verified? And that's on the receptionist, and it's also on the tools you have. OrthoFi, there's no OrthoFi users on tonight, but if there were, they would attest to this, is that your insurance early verification, by the way, goes way up when using their tools. But again, if you take the tool, does the tool on its own work? Yeah. But if you take the tool and combine it with a trained team on sales, hospitality, customer service, verbiage, psychology, et cetera, and combine it with the tool, man, oh man, you will not believe the growth that can happen. And that's where we get into lack of consistent training, because everything that I'm talking about tonight requires, this is not a, hey, I joke all the time, right, chat? That's a done for you service. Plug and play. You're going to grow 50, 100 grand a year. You're not going to have to lift a finger. New patient group, different story, right? You got to do the work. Now, it becomes easy and everything becomes on autopilot, but you've got to put in some work in the beginning, and you've got to have a commitment to train. You ask yourself, it always cracks me up, and this is not healthcare. This is entrepreneurs across the globe. When people, if you went to a plumber, if you went to a restaurant owner, if you went to an orthodontist, most people are enamored by their product, not their client. All right. I always say, like, when was your job not giving a you know what about the client? And I'm not talking clinically. I'm talking all the non. People are so obsessed with their skill sets or their product that they lose track of what really grows you. And the reality is it's training. It's experience, because hourly paid employees, if any of you are on tonight, again, not a shot at you, you don't come from the factory with skill sets in sales, customer service, hospitality, verbiage, presentation, psychology. It's just not, and it's not a criticism. It's just like, I'm not coming in there and I'm not going to get in the mouth. That'd be a great way to put you out of business, is have me do that. We all have our expertise. But when that expertise is combined together, boy, oh boy, baby, does this really work? And as the leader of your organization, you've got to see value in repetitive training and role plays. You've got to see value in making sure people are in the batting cage getting their swings. How many hours the Ritz-Carlton requires their employees to train before having any interaction with clients or prospective ones? So face-to-face or over the phones. It's 250. Now, obviously, that's pretty unrealistic for a small business. That's not what I'm teaching you. But what I am teaching you is to make sure that you see value and rethink. Now, this really is every job position. There's a podcast. If you don't listen to the New Patient Group podcast, check it out, because there's a lot of free goodies on there. But one of them talks about the biggest problem with your job description. And all of you can ring true to this, where if you look at your job descriptions, your assistants, the job description is probably assist in the mouth, set up trays, clean the sterilization room, receptionist, answer phones, file paperwork, et cetera, et cetera. Nowhere in their job description is what you see on the screen. Yet this should be their primary job description. Everything else is secondary. And you have to rethink your job descriptions in your office, because your receptionist, because we're talking specifically for the most part, the new patient phone call tonight, they hold a position that is hospitality, customer service, sales, verbiage, presentation, and psychology. That should be all over their job description, as well as they should get ongoing education from experts in those things. Because the better they are at those things that you see on the screen, the more you're going to grow and be able to execute this stuff and learn and have that infinite mindset where there is no end game. It's just consistently doing it better today than yesterday. And once this all becomes consistent, it becomes easy. It's just a little bit difficult sometimes making it consistency or making it consistent. And the other question as far as training goes is the burden all of us as business owners, you, me, et cetera, all of us face, especially in this crazy whacked out society we're in now, is employee turnover. because it shares, and we all share in this, the burden of starting all over again. You get into a situation where Betty is amazing on the phones, and then she gets pregnant and leaves. Or you train somebody for a year and realize they can't do it, and you have to fire them, starting all over. And there's other scenarios as well. People are sick, whatever. And this is where finding outsource partners is so great. OrthoFi, taking away the need to have a financial coordinator, insurance coordinator. You're able to replace a human with an outsource partner. And if OrthoFi loses an employee, guess what? That's on them. Wright Chat. I mean, Wright Chat is intended that when the new patient calls miss at your office, it rolls to us. We answer and schedule them for you. But we have plenty of clients that use us as their primary. Bob Skopak, the new patient call goes to 2 assigned agents first before it comes to him. There's others that have they have 2 receptionists, 1 leaves, and they replace the having to hire anybody with Wright Chat. Now they got 1 receptionist and us. The point is, and it's not a pitch on anybody. It's not a sales pitch on Wright Chat, New Patient Group, OrthoFi, Invisalign. It's not what it is. It's getting you to rethink inside your operation and say, hey, look, I can take A and B and I can outsource this. Or I can take A and outsource it now. And if I ever lose anybody, then I could take B and outsource it. The people that are oftentimes likely to do it better than anyone you're ever going to hire anyway. Not a shot at anybody. It's just a reality of the situation. Reduce the training that you have to do repetitively for the rest of your life by finding these strategic partners. Many of you were on for the $2 million 2-employee practice, where I talked about one of our clients, and a lot of our clients are now accomplishing that. You've got to find strategic people that you trust and that can do the job. The other piece, and this is the actionable item. Your job as a leader, and I get this is not easy, but it's no different than a parent. The best parents hold their kids accountable. There's consequences to their actions. The same thing that makes a great parent makes a great leader that runs a business. Is you've got to make sure, just like your kids, you've got to make sure that you're putting not only yourself, but your employees in uncomfortable positions, even ones they don't want to be in. Why? You owe it to them as a leader to improve and advance their career. And the beauty is, selfishly, is that when you do that, you're going to grow more. Both sides win, and employees become far more loyal to you. If someone else comes along and maybe it's a corporation that offers benefits that you can't, they rethink that stuff when they know you're not a pushover, but if they know they're going to be held accountable, there's consequences to their actions, and you are constantly advancing their career skill sets, they will be more loyal to you. Something our new patient group clients, and a lot of them, because they're so clear aligner, dental monitoring oriented, they actually block 3 hours a week because their practice is on Easy Street. And now they get to focus more. And this is the work on your business versus working in your practice model. Right now, you leave tonight, and next week you have an hour blocked or 2, and you can sit down and discuss, hey, look, this is what we learned. Let's start practicing this. Let's start actually the 1% rule, the focus with a purpose. That's what I'm saying, is that everything tonight works at the highest possible level if you do it at the highest possible level. And that comes with practice. So you as a leader, your employees are not going to come to you and say, Dr. Jones, make us practice. No, just like your kids aren't going to say a lot of those. Don't make me take out the trash, make me do my chores. No, you've got to be a leader. And block at least 1 hour per week focused on role play training, and also rethink how you can outsource certain admin related duties to trusted outside parties. Don't just trust them to anybody, trust them to outside parties. And like I said before, I had this before. Think about all, and this slide really applies in many different areas I talked about tonight. Think about all that's in people's minds, and then you lose them, right? They know the insurance, and you're actually very happy with them. You spent a lot of months training them. Now you're happy, and then they go. Maybe you don't like them and they go. Maybe you do all this training and they're actually really good at it, but then the person standing in front of them wanting to check out, they can't because they're on the phone verifying insurance. Rethink outsourcing, everybody. And it makes it so much easier when you find the right people. All of this that I'm talking about tonight, and this one we'll wrap it up with this, goes into a lack of patient experience. A lot of times people find when you talk about experience, the attitude is, we're already good there. People are nice. Experience goes way beyond nice. The definition of customer service, if you walked into a Ritz-Carlton meeting, is actually when you get what you want while delivering more than people expected. It's living beyond. And there's a whole world of training that you can't even believe that you can apply to your practice. That is hard to do whenever you're inundated with all of these admin duties. And it's hard whenever the job description of the employee says your next job is to take the tray over there and go get the next patient. It has nothing to do with customer service, or you will not be on the phones if someone's standing in front of you. But then if that's the case and the phone rings, you may lose a new patient. It's the ongoing dilemma small businesses, even big ones, have. But the reality of the situation is, again, just like your 5-star reviews, exactly what they tell your practice. Is that 90% of people choose and remain with a business because of the quality of their experience over whether or not they're any good at what they do. I love this study. I've been using it for about 5 years now. This number has stayed the same because every year they redo it, and this number hovers between 87 and 90. So I just chose to keep it just like this. Once it makes a big jump up or down, I'll switch the slide. But this is what you've got to understand. Burns Steakhouse, #1 rated steakhouse in the United States right now. It's in Tampa. I ate there about 8 months ago. Maybe it was 6 months ago, right in there. Food wasn't even that good. For those of you who know us and follow our station, you know I love to cook. My food is 10,000 times better than they could ever dream of. But what happened? Man, oh man, was their experience off the charts. A welcome tour through the wine room, through the kitchen, their dessert room upstairs, a whole separate entity, and on and on and on. The customer service, the way the waiters were trained, every word that came out of their mouth, you're like, what? It made you want to spend more money there. But it had nothing to do with the food. And that's the same thing in your clinical world. People can relate to your non-clinical experiences far better. And all of these things I'm talking about tonight go directly into that. People don't know what a great clinician you are until your team learns how to sell it and place a different image in people's mind. And you've got to ask yourself, what does your front look like? Is your receptionist giving the one-finger salute to the patient standing in front while she's on hold with the insurance company, or on hold or is it reversed? Does Betty, the receptionist, have to tell the new patient or even an existing patient, please hold, and put them on hold so they can check out the person in front of them so they don't give them the one-finger salute? That's a bad brand either way. And that's, from a Wright chat standpoint, the other thing that comes into play. If Betty, the patient, wants to check out, now the phone rings, you can let it go. Why? Because you have 2 additional receptionists sitting off site. They're going to schedule it for you anyway. So now you can focus on the person in front of you. So it's almost an intentional missed call because your brand, the person that already bought from you, that's the lifeline of your practice. This whole, the new patient's the lifeline. No. The people that have already bought from you, that's your lifeline. That's where the heart and soul should be dumped in. And additionally, to wowing the new people. But how are you coming across when people walk through your door or on the phone is really what I'm talking about, is what image are you creating? Is the receptionist warm and friendly? Do they come across as you're their only person and their only responsibility? Or are you coming across like this, mass chaos, like so many front desks are and onboarding experiences are? And that's where these outsourcing to an OrthoFi as an example, where they can take so much of these responsibilities off your shoulders. This is what you want people to be picturing of your office. One of the things we teach our clients is even when you walk through the door, it shouldn't look like a healthcare environment. Your phones should not be up front. That's where everyone has them, but they shouldn't be there. Your receptionist can work from home. They don't need to be there. Put a concierge up front, redesign your front desk to make sure they walked into some other type of environment. Why? It's an immersive experience. To me, if Walt Disney teaches it, it's good enough for me. But the reality is, if you want to close more cases, offer an immersive experience. That simple. From the time they shop, and leaders, you should be offering that to your own employees as well. But that's the image as you're talking to the receptionist and you hang up, and we'll dial in further on what happens after that. This is what should be going through their minds. And you have to ask yourself, is that what's going through people's minds? I hope you enjoyed tonight. If you want to stand out in this new economy, there's 3 companies on that screen that can help you do it in a big, big way. Hope you enjoyed it, everybody. And let's dive in and see if there's any questions and answers that we can go into.
Again, to all of our users that are on, thank you. If you're not an OrthoFi user, we want to make sure to call this out. We are doing a limited offer. If you want to learn more, whether OrthoFi is the right fit for your practice or not, that's okay. We'd love to sit down with you, tell you a little bit more about what we do, how we might be able to help your practice increase same-day starts, and open up your team and free your team up to focus on all these things that Brian's talking about. So if you complete a demo by March 10th, and sign up with OrthoFi, you receive $2,000 off your implementation set up for you when you sign up with OrthoFi. And then on top of that, the first 3 practices that sign up will receive free implementation. So it's over an $8,100 value. You also get 2 free tablets. So it's a great offer. You can scan that code, that QR code that's on the screen right now, and it'll take you to our website. You can also visit startmoresmiles.com to just learn more about OrthoFi in general. So if you do have questions, feel free to email us at marketing@orthofi.com if you have anything, and we'll make sure to follow up. And then we'll also follow up with some of the videos and the recording and everything like that over the probably early next week. But I know Brian had a couple of really awesome videos that we had to cut short because of time. So we'll make sure to get those and share those out as well, Brian, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you guys.
And I apologize for going that far over. And if anybody, here's my cell. If anybody just wants to text or call me and ask me these questions, everybody, it's 832-331-6091. And anybody in the audience is welcome to give me a call to chat.
Awesome. Again, thank you guys so much for being here. Brian, appreciate everything. This was great. And for more information, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll follow up soon and look forward to the next OrthoFi webinar series